Hey guys, this is Sharad on Next Real Estate Deal podcast. I have a very special guest, Lauren Hardy, on this podcast. Super excited to do this call with her. How are you doing, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So excited to have you on this call. We've talked a lot in the last 2-3 weeks, and you just came back from vacation, fully recharged. So let's get into it. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what investment type you do, and what market you're in, how long you've been investing for. Just a little background about yourself.
Well, I'm Lauren Hardy. I live in Orange County, California. I do a little bit of everything. So I started 10 years ago, and I primarily was focused on house flipping then. I picked up wholesaling along the way. Then I picked up virtual wholesaling. So I actually left Southern California, not in the physical sense, but I changed my territory to an out-of-state market. And I started virtually flipping, virtual wholesaling, and I've even built new homes, so ground up construction virtually as well. So I've got a lot of experience, working markets that are not in my backyard. Right now, I am virtually flipping and virtual wholesaling. That's my primary focus. And yeah, I don't know, what else can I tell you?
That's awesome. No, you got a little bit of everything going on. I was the same way. I started out buying rental properties, then flipping, and then I started doing a little bit of wholesaling. But yeah. All right. So Lauren, the purpose of this podcast is to help people that are struggling to find their next deal, bring on experienced investors like yourself and help them kind of answer some of the questions that they might be struggling with. So I'm going to ask you the questions and then just answer kind of, what you would do in your business. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, Lauren, if you were starting to get your next real estate deal, which is one marketing channel you would use right now?
I feel like this answer changes depending on where we are in the market.
Right.
Right now, we are looking at a buyer's market. I
Right.
think, in some territories, they might say it's a buyer's market. It's probably not across the board. But we just went from a major seller's market for quite some time to finally, it's our time as investors. We've been sitting, dealing with sellers who kind of had the upper hand in transactions, and, we've had to, offer, above what we were maybe comfortable with to get these deals. And now, sellers are, going to be a little bit more motivated because of what's going on in the economy.
Absolutely.
And that excites me. So before, I used to be really hot for direct to seller marketing methods. Like I would say, mass texting and direct mail and, answers like that. But right now, I'm actually very excited about networking with agents and making offers on properties that are MLS listed, because I think that there are going to be a lot of sellers calling their real estate agent friend or real estate agent that they work with and saying, okay, I got to get out of this house. I lost my job. There's going to be some motivation there. And usually sellers' first line of, who they call would be an agent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very smart answer. We're noticing people using REsimpli are also starting to trend a little bit towards MLS because that's where they see opportunities. All right. If somebody came and asked you, help me pick one marketing list that I should go after if I'm doing direct to seller marketing, do you have a list that you would recommend?
I like the vacant seller list or a vacant house list.
Vacant house list? Yeah. And if you were scaling your business and you were going to hire your first team member, who would you hire?
I would hire an acquisition manager because I hate talking to sellers.
Makes sense. Yeah. And what would you not do at all in your business?
I would not drink the scale Kool-Aid in this business. I did, admittedly. And I am under the firm belief that this business is very difficult to scale because you do not have control over your product. So if I was newer, and I see this with newer people often, that they have immediately in their head, they don't want to do the work. They want to hire a team under them and they want to hang out on the beach. And I would lose that idea because that I see very, very rare people pulling that off. I actually
Yeah.
can't really think at the top of my head who's pulled that off.
Right.
So I would not scale my real estate business. I'm not saying, don't hire anyone. Like, I think that there's team members that you can hire, but I do think that you need to have a very active role in the acquisitions of your business. Maybe you're not the person talking to the seller, but maybe you're that person watching over the person talking to the seller. You're giving them offer prices. You've got more of a hands-on approach. And I think that a lot of the people that went to a hands-off, I'm going to scale approach, have been crying this year. And, they've realized, hard lesson that it's a very difficult business to scale. So that would be my advice.
Agreed. And how would you go about building your buyers list?
Building my buyers list. My favorite way to do that is Facebook groups. I love Facebook for that.
That's a good one. And if you were starting out, would you go on in-person appointments or make offers over the phone?
I am more of a on the phone. I'm the virtual girl,
You're
right?
the virtual, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I feel like, I don't want to get in my car unless I know the seller's going to sign a contract.
Perfect. Biggest investing mistake you've made?
Oh, I've got one great. I've got a good one.
I
don't know if this is necessarily like the biggest mistake, but I'll say that this is the most recent. In one of my virtual flips, we were not aware that you need to have a special city license. So if you're working in the city, so not just, this is in Pittsburgh, not just Pittsburgh Metro, you have to be licensed, in Pennsylvania, right? But if you are working in the city of Pittsburgh, there's a certain jurisdiction they call like the city, right? You have to have a special license. And in 2022, they made it more difficult to get the license. So a lot of contractors will make claims that they have their city license and they will do the work when in fact they aren't. And we had this exact scenario happen. We did not know about the city license. So we didn't understand fully, what license were required on, in this specific region, right? We didn't know. And because we didn't know to ask for it, this person performed work. He put a full HVAC system in a property that we're actually, it's a full gut, so it's down to the studs. So it was actually kind of a redevelopment project. So we had to get permits because this HVAC company does not have their city license. It's slowing down us getting permits on the entire job, and we cannot close the walls of the house.
Oh, wow.
Yes, until we can't get our building permit because of this part. So biggest investment, flip mistake we made recently is just not verifying that the contractors you hire are properly licensed for the area.
And then ask them to show you copy of the permit. Yeah, permit that they actually interest. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
Don't take their word for it. Don't take their word for it. Oh, another thing. Can I give one more? Give one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is happening a lot, and I want to educate wholesalers right now. We've had this happen twice already in the last 2 months. Buyers right now are very scared of the market, but they're still making offers on properties and they're still signing assignment agreements. Okay, so they're saying, I'll buy this house and I'm going to sign. When it comes down to the earnest money deposit, they are trying to weasel out of it. And they do stuff like text you that they're on their way to drop off the check, but then they don't drop off the check. So you think that they put the EMD down, but and you might be a little busy that day and you didn't check with escrow that it actually got dropped off. Buyers are doing that right now because they want to feel like they could back out at any time and there's no, financial consequence for them. Right. So just be aware that this is happening right now. And make sure with your escrow company that an EMD was deposited.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. All right, moving on to something positive. Best deal of your life and lessons you learned from it.
I have one because it was more of, it made me the strongest, right? It was one that was the most challenging that I got the most from it. So whenever something really bad is happening, you got to go, what is the lesson here? It was my second year in the business. I bought a property and I immediately got sued. So it was not my fault. I didn't do anything, fraudulent. It was a real estate owned property. And there was some drama before the property went into foreclosure that I had nothing to do with. But unfortunately, I now own the property. And the person who foreclosed previously sued the bank that foreclosed on her, and she had to sue me to lock up the property. In that experience, I was extremely stressed out. It was an 18-month ordeal. So this property got locked up.
Wow.
This property got locked up in litigation for 8 months. Now, I made one mistake that I wish, I mean, again, you're going to learn the most out of the hardest things, right? So my mistake is that in the very beginning, when I was evicting her, because she wouldn't leave the property, so I evicted her, I made the mistake of getting on the phone with her and having a conversation. And in that conversation, she twisted my words and she just said, Lauren told me this, this, and this, and that, which then they put in the lawsuit. When you get sued, especially when it's frivolous, you'll notice that they'll throw anything they can. They'll throw any kind of cause of action they can come up with, so they were, they manipulated and said, I said this on this phone call and this on, there's a lot of, said phone call, this happened. And there's like 5 causes of action now that she was able to pull out because of that phone call. Right. So mistake number 1, if anything's ever contentious, just don't get on the phone. Do everything in writing, right? That property, I held it. I could not put anyone in it because I didn't know. First of all, the property was uninhabitable. So nobody could live in it. So I had to eat the expenses of the holding costs. I had to just every month write checks, of interest. Yeah, for 18 months or whatever. So I had to eat the holding costs. The property was getting vandalized all the time because it was sitting vacant. I was dealing with a ton of stress because the legal process is very frustratingly slow. And it's always, this got postponed. It's going to be another 3 months. And you just wait for 3 months. And you're like, okay. And then it gets postponed again. And it's very, very frustrating. Okay. So I had to go through that whole thing. And in the final, finally, when it was done, we ended up settling, which is how a lot of lawsuits work out is, she was hell-bent and was going to fight till death. And for us, we made a very small offer that was less than our legal expenses to keep fighting anymore. Just, hey, we'll give you $4,000 to just go away. And she accepted it because we made it all the way to pre-trial. So that's how far it went. We almost went to trial over this, right? She had a small note. She had an attorney working for free. It was like a family friend. So, yeah, that's how it was able to get no attorney would take on this case. It was so out there frivolous, right? So we made it to pre-trial. The judge told her you don't have a shot in the dark at this one. You're totally going to lose. Just take her $4,000 and shut up. And so we settled. It was over. It was the best day in 18 months, just not having the stress on me. I was able to flip the property. I made 90 grand on it. In the end, after all the expenses, actually all the expenses, everything, I made $90,000. So
that's awesome for $5,000 for every month of headache that you have. That's awesome. Yeah. It
was so stressful, but I got the property really low, and then the real estate market just shot up that year. And it ended up working out. I did work a deal with my contractor. I let one of his workers live there for free for at least 12 months of that 18 months. Okay. And so they gave me a really good deal when they rehabbed it. They didn't charge a GC fee and just kind of was all right, well, good trade. So you got to get a little creative. But I learned, oh my gosh, I learned so much about the legal system. Anytime I get in a situation that starts feeling, a little litigious, I know how to handle myself. I know how to speak to the other side, to stand up for myself. And, I'm a stronger person. In fact, people, after they try to threaten to sue me, if they do that, and then they hear what I have to say after, they usually back off because they know that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So in the end, I've probably avoided a lot of legal issues, for the rest of my career because of that. So
yeah. I was wondering how that was going to be the best deal of your life, but it made so you made 90,000 on it. That's awesome. Yeah, no, we're getting sued on one of our property also from a tenant, and that's what you mentioned. We've always doing is, if we're getting sued, if somebody mentions suit, we just say, hey, sorry, we can't talk to you. We have to go through our attorneys now. Yeah, we just, at that point, we just completely, because you're right, they can use anything you say, they can twist your words and then just use it like in a way that you never even imagined. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's a really, really good lesson. All right.
Happens to everybody.
It does. It does.
It does. If you've been in business long enough, you're going to get sued.
Oh, absolutely. If you haven't been sued so far, then you haven't been in the business long enough.
Right.
All right. Moving on to some fun questions. Thank you so much for sharing all that. What do you do for fun?
I'm a mom, so I don't have a ton of time, to have fun, right? I spend a lot of time in that mom mode, taking care of the kids. But we live by the beach, so we spend a lot of time on the beach and just have that beach lifestyle. I love riding my bike around town. We live by a lot of fun places, restaurants, bars, so we have a really, really great time with the lifestyle that we've, created for ourselves. And that was always a dream of mine, was just like, I want to live a vacation. Like, I want where I live to feel like vacation every single day. And I got it.
Living the dream. All right. One book that has made the biggest influence in your life, but business or personal, you can choose either one.
I've read so many great books. It's hard to choose, but I always go back to this Darren Hardy Compound Effect book.
Oh yeah.
I think the reason is it was like one of the first books I've ever read in the subject of self-development. I read it when I was like maybe 25 or 26 years old, when I was starting the real estate business. And at that time, I really didn't understand like the amount of work like that it takes to have a successful business. So in the Compound Effect, he really explains like what it took for him to be successful. Like he tells the story, and he talks about how many hours he worked and exactly what he did. And then I was able to go, oh, okay, like I'm not working hard enough. Like I need to do exactly that and spend those hours. It really taught me, like it helped me understand like what kind of work ethic you need to have to be successful. And prior to that, I wouldn't say I had that work ethic. Because it wasn't taught to me. Like I just didn't know.
No, that's a great book. All right, last question. If you could spend a day with anyone dead or alive, who would you want to spend the day with?
Oh my God. Yeah, that one, you know what? You gave me a little heads up that you were going to ask me that. And I cannot think of anybody. Let's see. I would say my favorite actor of all time is Robin Williams.
Okay.
And I think that he would be a very interesting person, to learn about. He, worked incredibly hard. He was extremely successful at his craft. But he also dealt with like depression and like mental health stuff. So I think he'd have some fascinating stories. So that's kind of the first person that comes to mind.
Awesome. All right, Lauren, thank you so much. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
So you guys can follow me on Instagram. My handle is thismomflips. All my social links are there. You can, find my YouTube page and all that.
Cool.
I do have a free course that I just launched. If you would like, I can share the URL.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So
put
that's
this in the show notes also. So yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, it's www.freecourseonwholesaling.com. I just added some more modules in it, just packed a bunch of value in there, for free. So if you want to check that out, I would.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. You always get the best URLs.
I know, I'm the best at it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Really appreciate everything you've shared.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.